I recently cruised on one of the oldest ships in the Celebrity Cruises fleet, and now I'm here to tell you all about my cruise experience on board the Celebrity Summit. Hi, my name is Zach. I am the Traveling Man, and in this video, I'm going to give you my honest review of everything about the Celebrity Summit. We're going to talk about the food, we're going to talk about the ship, we're going to talk about the service. If you've ever watched any of my videos in the past, you know that I'm a big fan of Celebrity Cruises. I say it's my favorite cruise line. Particularly, I'm a big fan of their Celebrity Edge series of ships. That's the Celebrity Edge, the Apex, the Beyond, and soon the Ascent. So taking a cruise on the third oldest ship, a ship that debuted all the way back in 2001, it was a big step for me. In addition to all the Edge class ships, I'd also been on the Celebrity Equinox, which is part of their Solstice series of ships. So this was my first time sailing on one of the M class ships, as folks call these, or the Millennium class. And this is the oldest, they're the smallest ships. Like I say, it's a ship that's 22 years old. So I went into it with a lot of excitement, actually. I was really excited to see what Celebrity had done with this ship. I knew that back in 2019, Celebrity had completely overhauled this ship. They revolutionized it, as they say. They had completely gutted parts of the ship and refinished it and redid a lot of the rooms, a lot of the staterooms, and you're going to see my stateroom and how amazing it was and what a great job Celebrity did. I'll just say up front here, at revolutionizing the Celebrity Summit. So typically on my channel, I'll do a cruise review separate from a dining review in two different videos. However, this was only a 4-day cruise, so you're going to get it all in this video. I'm going to talk about the ship, and I'm also going to talk about the food. But how I critique the ship usually, I usually go by my steps review, and there's 5 steps, of course. The first one being the ship. We'll talk all about the ship. The second is taste. So that's where all the food I had on this trip is going to fall. The third is the entertainment, and there was a lot of entertainment on board this ship. The P is for ports. And then the fifth is the service, and that's one where we're going to need to have a discussion, a very honest discussion about the service on the Celebrity Summit. But let's jump right in with that S for ship. And the Celebrity Summit, despite being 22 years old, is a beautiful ship. Like I said, Celebrity did a fantastic job back in 2019 when they revolutionized this ship. They made it more modern. And if you've already watched some of the vlogs I put out here on the channel, you have heard me say over and over, this is a cruise ship, a small cruise ship like they're not building anymore. But if they built a small cruise ship in 2022, this is what it would look like. The modern aesthetic that they've added to that ship. I also said many times in my videos how much the Celebrity Summit and its revolutionized look reminded me of a Celebrity Edge series ship. I was just blown away, and a lot of the lounges, in a lot of the in the dining room, there's only one dining room, in the stateroom certainly, they all had that modern elegance. They all had a special touch to them, and it didn't feel like the ship was 21, 22 years old. It actually felt like a modern cruise ship, like they had built the Celebrity Summit in the past few years. Now, there are a couple exceptions to that, of course. There's a lot of old wood paneling around the ship, so you did turn a corner sometimes and you'd notice this old wood paneling, and it would make you feel like, oh yeah, this ship was built in the early 2000s. But for the most part, Celebrity has done their absolute best and have succeeded at making the Celebrity Summit, and a lot of their older ships too, I know, have been revolutionized and undergone this same treatment. But they've done their best to make these older cruise ships still have the same vibe as a lot of their newer cruise ships. In addition to that wood paneling, another way that the ship showed its age was with some of the elevators on board, particularly those glass elevators. They're nice to look at, and it's nice to think about a glass elevator going right up and down. It was over on the port side of the ship, right next to the sea. That was awesome. But the appearance of those, it was clear that they were really old. They were over 20 years old. And I know that those things can't be completely revolutionized like the rest of the ship, but those are just some ways that you notice that the ship is older than what other parts of the ship might make you believe. I think probably the best summation of this ship that I could give is it's like a Solstice class ship. If you like the Solstice class ships, you're gonna like the Millennium class ships, because as I walked around Celebrity Summit, I was constantly reminded of my time on Celebrity Equinox. It's laid out very similar. A lot of the locations are pretty much the same. And if you want to see some of that stuff, make sure you go back and check out my ship tour video that I did of Celebrity Summit, and you'll see how beautiful it is, but you'll also see all those locations. But it's like a smaller, scaled down version of Celebrity Solstice class ship. Also to mention about the ship is my stateroom, and I actually upgraded my stateroom. I was originally supposed to be in an inside, and I'll actually show you some clips here of that inside stateroom because I did go to it and check it out. But I was actually able to upgrade for only $150 for the entire 4-day cruise. I upgraded to a veranda stateroom, and I'll put footage of that here. But both beautiful staterooms, both have been revolutionized, both have been upgraded back in 2019. The bathroom inside my stateroom was fantastic, so I really enjoyed that and really thought it was beautiful. I did notice that my deck chair, however, had a little bit of wear and tear to it. The pillow on it was broken. I also noticed a lot of wear and tear. Up on the rooftop terrace, they had some cabanas sat around, and a lot of those were really just worse for wear. I mean, they were just worn out. They needed to be replaced, and I was actually kind of surprised to see that on a Celebrity cruise ship, because normally all their stuff is top-notch and well updated, but not so for some of the outdoor furniture on board the Celebrity Summit. One of the areas that I did have some issues with was the internet. And I always put the internet under the ship because it is part of the ship's infrastructure, I always say. The internet wasn't great on this ship. There were times when the internet wasn't working at all, and I had the premium, supposed to be the fastest internet on the ship. And I realized there were a lot of people on this cruise, but I think when you're paying premium prices, you should expect some type of premium speeds, right? You should expect the internet to be reliable, and this is especially true in today's age when a lot of folks are working from home. But I know a lot of people, they have that flexibility. They work from home. They can, work from vacation sometimes too. So sometimes you might need to take work with you and work on a cruise ship. So just know that it was slow. Now, I do know that Celebrity is currently upgrading all the internet on all their ships to Starlink, which is going to be much faster, much more reliable internet. I cruised in November 2022, so anything I say, from the time of November 2022 to the time you're watching this video, that could have changed. They could have Starlink now. But when I sailed it, the internet wasn't great. So for all those reasons, I'm going to give the ship a 3.5 rating out of a 5. The T is for taste. We're going to talk all about the food. First of all, I'll say Celebrity Cruises has the best food at sea. On all their ships I've been on now, I think this was my 6th Celebrity cruise, and all those cruises, all the food on all of those cruises has been better than any of the food I've had on any of my other 19 or 20 cruises that weren't with Celebrity. So Celebrity Cruises, no matter what ship you sail, you're going to find fantastic food. I'll start with the Oceanview Cafe. I was really blown away by the Oceanview Cafe on Celebrity Summit. Not only does it have a very modern aesthetic, and not only is it very reminiscent of the Oceanview Cafe on those Edge series of ships, but I just like the layout of it because it's sort of disjointed a little bit, because you don't have just a common middle place with all the buffet set up. If you sailed some of the newer ships, I think even on the Solstice class ships, all of the buffet stations are just sat in the middle of the Oceanview Cafe, and it's just a swarm of people moving around. You're always bumping into someone, or at least that's been my experience. However, on the Summit, all of the stations inside of Oceanview Cafe were at different locations. So it's sort of like in the round Oceanview Cafe is. And all around Oceanview Cafe, you have the various stations where you could get pizza was at one station and salad was at another, and they're all removed from one another. And although there were quite a few people on the ship, I was never bumping into people or felt like it was awkward or weird in there. So I really wanted to mention that and say that I enjoyed not only the look of Oceanview Cafe, but also the layout of Oceanview Cafe. I also enjoyed the food. Every meal I had in there, every time I went in there for breakfast or for lunch, a lot of times I'd leave the main dining room and go there for dessert, because they had really good dessert offerings inside Oceanview Cafe. So really enjoyed Oceanview Cafe and all the food that I had there. Not only did I dine several times at Oceanview Cafe, but 3 nights of the cruise, I dined in the main dining room. And I will say that the service in the main dining room was exceptional. Every night, even on Elegant Evening, the second night of the cruise, when everyone is in the main dining room, it feels like I never waited more than just a few minutes for my food. And I think I was never in the dining room for more than 45 minutes any night. I mean, it was very quick in and out service, and all the food was good too. I'm just going to put some clips in here while I talk about the main dining room of the various food items that I had, but everything was delicious. I can't think of anything bad that I had. You'll see there too that I was able to have 2 lobster tails, and I mention that because I know that Celebrity has now changed the rules. You can still get 2, but you're going to be charged for that second one. I think they're imposing like a $16.95 plus 18% gratuity charge for extra lobster tails now. But when I was on Celebrity Summit, it was absolutely free. So of course I indulged. I always enjoy lobster night. But all the food was great. But even better than the food inside of Cosmopolitan, that's the main dining room there, was the service. The service was top notch, and I really enjoyed it. I also took advantage of a couple of specialty dining opportunities on board the Celebrity Summit. The first of which was Tuscan Grill, and I was so excited to eat at Tuscan Grill. I had previously eaten there on board Celebrity Solstice Couldn't wait to go back on Celebrity Summit. And I will say right up top, I wasn't as impressed this time with the food. The service in there was great, but the food left a little something to be desired. And I'll just sort of walk through each of the things that I had and tell you a little bit about them. So I started with the meatballs, and the meatballs are always good in Tuscan Grill, and these on Celebrity Summit were no exception. My second appetizer that I got was the crab cake. You know, if you watch my videos, I love me a good crab cake, and I'm always ordering them when I go on a cruise. This one was just okay though. It wasn't anything great. It seemed more like a main dining room appetizer, to be honest with you. It wasn't like a crab cake you would expect at a specialty dining restaurant. That was also my complaint of the Caesar salad, which I also got. This was more like the Caesar that you get in the main dining room. And I feel like if you're paying that extra money to go to a specialty dining venue, every course of that meal should taste like it came from a specialty dining venue. I don't care if it's just the salad or just the appetizer. I'm paying extra money. I'm paying $60 extra to come to Tuscan Grill. It should be above and beyond what I'm able to get included in my cruise fare back in the main dining room. So that was my big complaint, was that these two courses tasted like food you would get from the main dining room. Next up, I had the lobster ravioli, and that was the reason I went, because I absolutely love that dish. I just got a little side portion. You see it's a smaller portion. You can ask when you go to Tuscan Grill for a smaller portion of some of the pasta if you just want to try it alongside your main. Speaking of main, I had the filet mignon, and it was pretty good. And with that, I had some sides. I had some broccoli, I had some potatoes, and those were pretty good as well. And finally, for the dessert, I had the strawberry cake, and that was good. That actually redeemed the meal a little bit for me, because that was like, okay, we're getting back into specialty dining quality now. However, overall, those other courses kind of lost me, because my overall review of the Tuscan Grill on Celebrity Summit was that it didn't taste like a specialty dining venue. It tasted more like the main dining room food. And I think, again, if you're paying $60 to go to a specialty dining venue, you should feel like you're eating $60 worth of food. And I felt like I could have got all these things off the main dining room menu. So yeah, I would not go back to Tuscan Grill on Celebrity Summit if I were selling it today. I wouldn't go out of my way to make reservations to eat there just because of the experience. It wasn't for me, I'll say that. The other specialty dining opportunity that I took was going to Sushi on 5. Sushi on 5, of course, as the name suggests, is a sushi restaurant that they have on board the ship there, and always incredible. Now, Sushi on 5 is a little bit different than Tuscan Grill being a specialty restaurant, whereas Tuscan Grill is more of a flat rate. You pay $60 and pick off the menu. If you want to go for dining at Sushi on 5, you're basically going to pay per entree that you get, or per item that you get. So if you get an appetizer, you pay for that. If you get an entree, you pay whatever the price is for that. And all the prices are listed specifically inside the menu. I enjoyed the scallop and shrimp dynamite. And y'all, that was dynamite, as the name suggests. This was really good. It was a baked hot pot. It had spicy honey on it. That was probably the highlight of my meal at Sushi on 5. And I'll absolutely be returning on my next celebrity cruise to Sushi on 5 to make sure that I eat it again. I also enjoyed a shrimp tempura roll that was also very delicious. Fantastic dining experience all around at Sushi on 5. The service was great. The food was incredible. I ate there while we were in port at Cozumel, so it was nice to just sit and have a great view of Cozumel out the window while I enjoyed a fantastic meal. Those are the only 2 items that I had at Sushi on 5, and just to let you know, to be fully transparent, that cost me $27 after gratuity and everything was added. So not bad. It's not the $60 that you would pay to go to like Tuscan Grill. And that's one of the cool things about the a la carte sort of experience that they have at Sushi on 5. You don't have to pay as much up front to eat there, especially if you're just someone who doesn't eat a lot of food and maybe you just want to get one sushi roll or something. You're not paying a tremendous price for a food that you're not even going to eat. Another dining experience that I had that I was blown away with on board the ship was room service. I ordered room service 2 times throughout the course of this cruise, one of which was for breakfast, and that was not only delicious, but it was super fast. From the time that I ordered my breakfast to the time it was delivered to my stateroom was only 15 minutes. That's super fast. I also, on the very last night of the cruise, got some room service just to try it out, and y'all, that was some of the best food I had the entire cruise. I was blown away. The mushroom soup that they delivered was some of the best soup that I've ever had on a cruise, and I've had soup in specialty dining venues. It was so good. They gave me a substantial Caesar salad. It was huge. I couldn't believe how big it was. I thought being delivered from room service it'd be just a tiny little salad, but it was above and beyond what I expected. And then I love the room service burger. That was not the first time I'd had it before. I'd tried it on some other ships before, but it was so good. I finished off the meal with the chocolate ganache cake, and that was super moist. It was super delicious. And I still can't believe how good that room service dinner was. So don't skip on the room service. Don't discount it. If you're hungry for lunch or dinner, try out the room service and see, because they actually do have really good food. On a previous cruise with Celebrity, I'd actually tried the salmon. I tried the chicken skewers, and those are delicious as well. So really good options available from room service. And room service was top notch on Celebrity Summit. So overall for food, I'm gonna give it a solid 4 out of 5 rating. Next up was E for entertainment, and there was a lot of entertainment to be found around the ship, in addition to the music that they had and the lounges, the beautiful lounges on board, particularly the Rendezvous Lounge, which has a little dance club there in the middle of it. They had music in there, live music every evening, but specifically the theater. They had shows in the theater each night, and Celebrity always does a fantastic job with their theater production shows across all the ships in their fleet. The first night we had a comedian, and he was funny and well enjoyed. The second night of the cruise was a stage production show called Life, and Life was amazing. Life was good on board the Celebrity Summit, you could say. It was live music, it was dancing, and all of the cast did a tremendous job, and I was just blown away. One of the best shows I've seen on Celebrity, certainly. And like I said, I've been on all the Ed Sheeran's class of ships where you think they're going to have the best shows and the best production. And then the fourth night of the cruise, we're back for another stage production show called Soundtrack, which featured, well, soundtracks from movies, and that was really good as well. Again, the cast in this show was tremendous, great singing, great stunts that they were doing in this show too. I was actually surprised at some of the stuff. So for entertainment on board the Celebrity Summit, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 rating. Next up is the P, and P of course is for ports, and there's not a lot to talk about here because it was only a 4-day cruise, so only one port. So we left Miami, we had one sea day, and then we stopped in Cozumel for a full day in port. And I had been to Cozumel many times before, so I took advantage of the day in port to do my ship tour. So if you've not seen my ship tour from Celebrity Summit, make sure you go back and watch that. I'll put a link down below or an info card up here so that you can click into that video and see my ship tour of Celebrity Summit. But Cozumel is always a great place to go. There's a lot of activities to do there. There's a lot of the all-inclusive resorts you can go to. And then after we left Cozumel, the next day we had a sea day on our way back to Miami. So a short cruise, a nice little getaway cruise. It was nice to have the 2 sea days to really explore the ship, really get to know the ship. So for the ports, it was just Cozumel. It was nothing special, but it was still okay. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5 rating. And the last up is S for service. And the service wasn't quite what I expected from Celebrity Cruises. Normally I'm given a 5 out of 5, and that's not happening this time. Overall, in most places on the ship, including the dining room, as I mentioned, and the specialty dining restaurants, most of the people I interacted with were fantastic. However, I did have an instance or two where I did have interactions with rude staff. It was just me asking for something or needing something, and just the response, just the look sometime on people's faces, and just the way that they treat you as the customer. It wasn't really what I expected from Celebrity Cruises. I'm not going to go into specifics. There were just a couple of instances where the service, the standard of service on Celebrity Summit wasn't up to the standard of service on Celebrity Cruises as a whole. It wasn't what I was used to. So I think there's some work to be done with the crew and the service there on the Celebrity Summit. So for those reasons, I'm only going to give the service a 4 out of 5 only. It's still a good review because by and large, 85% of my interactions and the service I received on Celebrity Summit was top-notch, exceptional service, as you would expect on Celebrity Cruises. So averaging all those scores together, that gives my total rating of my cruise experience on board the Celebrity Summit a 3.8 out of 5. It was a great cruise. Again, love the renovations to Celebrity Summit. But there was some concerns with the service. There was some concerns with some of the food that I had on board there. But overall, it was a fantastic cruise, and I was so glad I was able to try out this smaller Celebrity cruise ship. And I'm actually going to be trying out more of Celebrity smaller ships. In fact, I'm going to be sailing on Celebrity Millennium very soon, and I'm excited about that. The oldest ship in the fleet. So make sure you subscribe and come back to see that later this year. I'm very excited for that cruise. Thank you so much for watching this cruise review of the Celebrity Summit. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, make sure you go down below, give me a thumbs up. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have a lot more cruise content to come very soon. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, I'll see you on the next adventure.